Hey guys, welcome to Realization Hub. My name is Michelle Corazao-Dinu, and I'm an intuitive counselor, energy healer, and channeler who loves to bridge the gap between the unseen world of spirit, consciousness, energy, and intuition so that it can apply to your everyday human experience. Today's video is an energy update for December 2022. I'll be going over some channeled themes for the month of December for the collective. A little bit about me. I teach awakened and sensitive souls how to be in command of their energy so that it can feel whole, healed, and balanced. So I offer personal sessions, group sessions, and online programs that can help you go through your transformation with more clarity, empowerment, and ease. So if you want more information about how to work with me, you can find more information in the description box below. And for those of you that like this channel and these videos, please like these videos and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out a lot. All right, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so let's get started with some of these channeled themes I was picking up for December. First theme was that in December, we might see collectively just sudden bursts of releases happening, kind of like combustive bursts. You know, there are a lot of ways that you can release energy. Some ways can be very spontaneous and intense and chaotic and kind of where they feel like there's a lot of friction to it and charge to it. Other times we can release energy really gracefully. And the thing is, you have choice around this. You always have choice around the way you want to experience your healing. Your healing can be triggering, it can be uncomfortable, it can be intense, it can be crazy, it can be chaotic. Your healing can also be easy, it can be smooth, it can be graceful, it can be soothing and pleasurable. And so I want you to think about the way you would like to heal, because collectively, we're still healing in old ways where we have to bump into each other, where we have to trigger each other, where we have to create a lot of friction, a lot of contraction before we suddenly pop and release something. And so December, I'm really picking up on those themes of sudden combustive releases in our collective, where, you know, the charge, the energetic charge is really building up in our energy, mostly because of resistance, where we carry resistance to where we're going. And a lot of times when we resist, it begins to snap at some point. And so I do see these sudden bursts of releases happening in the collective, especially near the beginning of December. So what does that look like? Well, just, you know, throughout your day, it's kind of like a light bulb bursting out of nowhere. You know, that's kind of how it feels to me. And so if something just suddenly in your life just kind of self-combusts, you know, kind of destroys itself, that is a sign that you need to let it go, you know. So for example, let's say you happen to get in a spontaneous fight with a friend or a family member. That fight or that conflict might be just what you need to have a sudden release of energy. You might just be so done with it, you know, that it comes up to the surface really quickly. You might see it in other ways, like suddenly you have an electronic that just blows up, you know, and although it kind of ruins your day, it does force you to upgrade and get something new. And so these aren't huge changes happening in our lives. These are just sudden bursts of release that are happening. So if you have that experience, kind of like blowing out a light bulb in your house, you know, where it just kind of happens suddenly, spontaneously, and it happens fast, that's just a sign of your energy rebalancing. You know, it has to release somehow. But if you don't like that experience of things kind of blowing up in your life out of nowhere, even the small things, you can pause and really set the intention to make sure that you are personally releasing things gracefully. We might not be able to control how the collective releases energy, but you certainly do create your own experiences. And so if you want to heal gracefully, set that intention. If you want to heal with ease, set that intention. If you want to heal through peace or tranquility, set that intention. and see how that occurs for you. Now, all this releasing happening in the collective, especially over the past few months, has, come to a crescendo of intensity and contraction. And this is all leading to a kind of a leap in the collective, or a leap in consciousness, or like a bigger shift in consciousness that we've usually seen. The shift that we're leading up to in the collective, that we might start seeing the tip of the iceberg in December, is like an inner child healing happening in the collective, kind of like the beginning of emotional maturity starting to integrate and starting to balance in the collective. So we might see just more leaders rising in the collective that are more emotionally mature or balanced, or we just might have our own individual experiences in December of healing our own inner child. December is traditionally a month of a lot of different holidays where we meet our family, our friends, we celebrate different stories in our different religions that are very meaningful for us. And we had traditions growing up as children celebrating. So it is a perfect time to work with your inner child in December. And it's also very much right on time collectively to work with your inner child. You can think of the collective as like an underdeveloped child. It just wasn't really taught how to manage their emotions, process their emotions, connect with their emotions, feel their emotions, communicate their personal needs, learn how to have really effective or safe conflict resolution. These are skills that you can learn as a child growing up. And if you lack a family environment or good, healthy role models growing up as a child, then you can be very much underdeveloped in these areas of emotional maturity. So what I'm starting to see in the collective is the very, very beginning of a healing happening. And that healing, the benefit of that healing starting to show, where we might start to see people coming into more emotional maturity, working on being more emotionally mature, allowing themselves to be more emotionally mature. If you think about the world, especially the last 10 years or so, this divisive energy has become more and more obvious on the planet. There's the separation, the extreme groups of people, the division. That has all become very highlighted in our society over the last 10 years, and it's just gotten more and more intense. And you think about this new healing that is starting to show in the collective, and that is emotional maturity. And people developing emotional skills and conflict resolution skills and communication skills and relationship skills, so that they can actually work out conflict. Because as of now, what we're seeing in society is a lot of immature people working out conflict and us really getting nowhere and things getting really unsafe for people on both ends of the spectrum, on both sides of the division. Both sides of the division feeling unsafe where their needs are not getting met. Both sides of the division just trying to kind of take it my way or the highway, not really willing to compromise. And so what we might see in December is the very beginning of emotional maturity starting to kind of be more valued and prioritized in our collective. And this is going to be what allows the collective to kind of bridge the gap between the division, to start working through conflict, to start seeing the other perspective, to start mediating issues, in a way that's more effective, to start creating more of a safe space on the planet for everyone. So a lot of times when we have a healing, a lot of times the actual experience of going through a healing can be very triggering or uncomfortable. Think of a cancer patient who has a tumor. It's very uncomfortable to go to the hospital and get that tumor removed. And it can be a very painful recovery process. And then on top of that, they have to go through treatments, which can also be very painful and uncomfortable. And All of that is a type of healing experience. However, when they're done with that healing experience, then they begin to live their life again in a more balanced and healthy way, where maybe their body is no longer carrying cancer. All right. Same thing with an emotional healing, a mental healing, a spiritual healing. We may go through the experience of healing, which feels very uncomfortable and triggering, and maybe even painful or worse, than what it feels like to not heal. But then when we're on the other side of that healing, we start to get the benefits of the healing. Suddenly we're feeling better. Suddenly our mind's working more clear. We're able to focus. We're able to have clarity. We're able to, give and receive and create what we want. We're able to believe in ourselves, all kinds of things. We start to get the benefits of the healing. And this is what we start to see in December. And I feel like this is a nice little Christmas present or a holiday gift, for the collective, as we start to see the tip of the iceberg of this benefit of this healing that's starting to show in the collective. Now, up until now, you can think of the collective of being in that very triggered and unclear state, kind of going through the experience of the healing. If you've ever heard of the lotus and muddy waters, the lotus grows in a pond of water, and the pond itself is not crystal clear. It's filled with dirt, it's filled with moss, and it's very unclear. And the lotus thrives in that environment. It grows and takes all the nutrients from that muddy waters to kind of rise to the surface and blossom this lotus. And that's a very good metaphor for enlightenment. For enlightenment, a lot of times things can get really stirred up, things can get really unclear, things can get really triggering, and that kind of puts on the pressure or exactly what we need to rise above it and come into, to transcend it and come into more of an open or a free kind of perception of things. And so when we're looking at the globe as a whole, we've been in muddy waters. Environmentally, we have more storms, more hurricanes, more severe storms. We have earthquakes, we have tsunamis, we have fires, we have, all kinds of natural disasters, just increasing and becoming more extreme. At the same time, we have politics all over the planet becoming very extreme and divided. We see, pollution in our environment. We see our economy, going to extreme. Just the shadow side of humanity rising to the surface, becoming known, being seen. The shadow rising on the planet. We've seen narcissism becoming a very big topic amongst people in society. We've seen the imbalances between masculine and feminine energy rise to the surface. We've seen the issue of truth being found outside versus inside. We've seen power and control games. We've seen greed. We've seen all kinds of things rise to the surface. A lot of the shadow side of humanity rising up to the surface and getting very loud and obvious. These are examples of the muddy waters on planet Earth right now. And we have been growing through it. We have been transforming through it. We have allowed it to put on so much pressure that we've had to rise above it in some ways. And December seems to be the first little glimpse of the benefits of all the work we've been doing. So if you've been doing the work in your life, just know that you've been contributing to a huge rebalancing happening on the planet that allows it to come to new levels. We can also look back at the nature of the collective's creative cycles over the past few years. And I think it's safe to say that somewhere around 2020, we had to kind of let everything go, drop all of our responsibilities and literally go inside and go home and quarantine, throughout the pandemic. And that's usually a really good sign that the collective has gone into some type of winter cycle. And in that winter cycle, you encounter voids, you encounter deep releasing, you encounter deaths, the deaths of things in your life, the death of you, the deaths of versions of you. You rest, you let go of everything that's not working for you. You renew, you align yourself, and you start envisioning what your new life will look like. And this has been happening over the past few years in the collective. We've been kind of in this wintry kind of cycle, where we go into this big void. We don't know what's going to happen next. We start to release everything that's not working for us. We're having these deep inner releases. We're resting. A lot of people gained weight during the pandemic because they're just sitting inside all the time. This is a typical kind of wintry season in a creative cycle. And so in December, we start to see kind of the changing of seasons. If you think about winter and how it goes into spring, it just doesn't happen in one day usually. Usually you still have spotty days of snow and cold, and then spotty days of the weather getting warmer, the days getting longer. It's like coming out of hibernation. You're not asleep, you're not resting anymore, but it's still not totally spring yet. And this is kind of the crossover between winter and spring in the collective, in our creative cycle. And so we'll be getting a little bit of these winter experiences where we feel like we need to withdraw from our friends, withdraw from family, withdraw from people in our lives, go within, have a release, envision something for ourselves, align, renew ourselves. And then we'll be having days where we start to engage with more of a spring energy in our creative cycle, in the collective. So what does that look like? What does spring look like for the collective? Well, spring is a natural time for new growth to occur. If you look at the season of spring, this is when you start to see new growth in the grass, new flowers blossom, new leaves, fresh greenery. Everything just kind of bursts open with life. All the little animals, they start to make babies. There's a lot of sexual energy in the air, a lot of fertility in the air. There's a lot of beauty in the air. Okay. And so creatively, what that means is that we usually start to emerge very slowly, maybe even in a vulnerable way, just like a little sprout shooting out from the ground. We might feel vulnerable, we might feel exposed, but we're starting to emerge from a deep, winter in some ways. And so we have to kind of take it slow, pace ourselves, really take care of ourselves as we start to emerge out of our own personal winters, and then going further into that springtime energy in our creative cycles, we usually start to see more of this playful energy, this innocence, just like the inner child. The inner child, they're naturally playful, they're naturally innocent. They approach the unknown through innocent eyes. They don't judge it, okay? They start to approach the unknown through the lens of discovery and curiosity and in playful ways. They're very imaginative, these children and our inner children. They're very imaginative, and they come up with lots of ideas because they're imaginative. They come up with lots of ideas, and it's a beautiful time of clarity. And it's an important part of the creative cycle because we absolutely not only need the vision from our winter of what we want to create in our lives, but we also need the ability to play with it, to discover it, to come up with ideas of how to create it in our lives and to clarify those ideas. And so it's an incredibly important part of the creative cycle, and the collective is just on the edge of going into that springtime. And so, a lot of times when it comes to how things evolve in our lives, our wisdom is guiding us. And this is beautiful wisdom coming in December for the collective, because what's happening in December is the collective is starting to heal the inner child. The collective is starting to integrate the inner child. The collective is starting to see the value in healing our inner child and integrating it, because it allows us to resolve conflict and work together, okay? And allows us to get our needs met even if we're all different. And what it does is it gives our inner child a healing so that our springtime in the collective creative cycle is going to be nice and healed and rebalanced and integrated, so that when we go into this new spring on earth, we're coming into this springtime creative essence in a more balanced way, where we're not suppressing our inner child. We're allowing ourselves to play, discover, approach the unknown with innocence and discovery and curiosity. We're allowed to play with our ideas, clarify our ideas, imagine things, be innocent, be vulnerable, take care of ourselves as we move through this vulnerability into building momentum, rising energy, bringing fertility to our creative, purpose here. Now, why is this happening in the collective? Well, it's kind of like the springtime when everything just starts to burst with new life. We might start to see that in the next few years on the earth, where a lot of new innovative ideas start to bubble up all around the earth, a burst of ideas all around the earth, a burst of fertility, of creativity, of playing with inventions, of discovering new things, being curious about new ways of handling these problems. Okay, so it's absolutely essential right now that if you haven't already started to work with your inner child and learn how to heal your inner child, or bring balance to some of the wounds you have from childhood, or integrate the inner child, now is the time to do that, because collectively we're about to head into a spring, and that really highlights our inner child. Even though you're adult, you may be an adult, even though we have people on the earth from ages of baby all the way to 100-something years old, we all still have an inner child, and that plays a crucial and important part in our creative process, especially our springtime. And although we might individually have our own micro cycles of winter, spring, summer, and fall in our creative cycles, especially women, especially menstruators, we also have these overarching collective cycles. And that's what I'm talking about. Collectively, we're coming out of a winter, and collectively we're going into a spring. And this crossover season between winter and spring will be happening over months and months. And it's giving us an opportunity to heal our inner child. It's giving us an opportunity to integrate our inner child so that we're ready for spring. Now, one of the beautiful things about this kind of inner child healing that's happening in the collective is that it allows the collective to become more emotionally mature. And this will allow the collective to work through issues and problems that haven't been able to be resolved before. Another benefit from this healing is that when we approach things from more emotionally mature states of being, more integrated states of being, then we're no longer enabling power dynamics and unfair dynamics in our relationships. We're able to stand up as equals in our relationships and have fair and healthy relationships. And so what this means is we are at the beginning of the end of power on this planet, where a lot of things are starting to deconstruct in power. And that's because people are disabling their own personal and individual power dynamics, and it is affecting the collective, where the collective will begin to disable power dynamics. And so we're headed in a direction on Earth here where power won't have its same grip on the planet that it has before. And instead, we rise and transcend that power into a new power, which is our creative power, our creatorship, how us as individuals can create the life that we choose. So December is a beautiful time to just kind of enjoy some of the expansion, some of the benefits of your healing in December, some of the benefits of your expansion, some of the benefits of all the intensity that you may have gone through over the past few months, or even just the past few years, you know, where you've had big releases, big integrations, big transformations within yourself, or big changes in your life. December is a beautiful time to just get the beginning of the benefit of all of those changes within you or outside of you. So I hope you have a great December. If you're interested in healing your inner child, I do have a group session coming up in December. At the beginning of December, it's only $25. And you can sign up and you will receive a healing on your inner child. All right, thank you so much. Please like this video and subscribe to this channel. It really helps me out a lot. Have a good December.